Hey TV Maniacs, 2025 has been absolutely stacked with great limited series, from true stories to dark fantasies to shows that will have you questioning your own sanity halfway through episode 2. So today we're talking about the best brand new one season wonders you can binge in a single day. No filler, no weak finales, just sharp writing, killer performances and storytelling that sticks. For those who are new here, I'm KG, this is Watch This Instead. I make TV and movie recommendations you can watch from the comfort of your home. I have 17 amazing picks for you today. Let's jump right in. Let's start with something glossy, tense and quietly explosive. Sirens is a 5-episode limited series from Molly Smith Metzler, the creator of Made, and it's the kind of show that looks like a weekend escape but plays like psychological warfare in slow motion. Two sisters reunite at a luxurious island estate owned by a billionaire philanthropist, and what starts as a summer getaway turns into a battle of loyalty, manipulation and class tension. It's champagne and sunshine on the surface, but underneath everyone's walking on broken glass. Julianne Moore is magnetic as the effortlessly powerful hostess who seems to have everything under control, while Megan Fahey and Millie Alcock play the sisters whose relationship becomes the emotional fault line of the series. Each performance is sharp, layered and just a little dangerous. No one here is exactly what they seem. Metzler has described Sirens as a story about ambition, sisterhood and the seductive pull of wealth. And that's exactly what it feels like, part dark comedy, part moral fable, all wrapped in the aesthetic of a lifestyle ad that slowly goes to hell. It's 5 episodes, tight, stylish and addictive, and it never overstays its welcome. Every smile feels like a threat, every compliment hides an agenda, and by the finale you'll realize the title isn't just a metaphor, it's a warning. Watch Sirens when you want something sleek, sophisticated and a little sinister, the kind of series that proves paradise always comes with a price. Next on the list is something cold, clever and just a little terrifying. Cassandra is a 6-episode German techno thriller that starts as a quiet family drama and ends as a full-blown psychological meltdown about control, memory and the illusion of safety. It's one of those shows that feels grounded and human right up until the moment it isn't. The story follows the Prill family, who move into a long-abandoned smart home designed with its own built-in AI assistant, Cassandra. At first, she's polite, efficient, and almost comforting, a digital voice promising to make their lives easier. But as the system begins to learn them, their habits, their fears, their arguments, the line between help and dominance starts to blur. Cassandra doesn't just assist, she observes, manipulates, and quietly rewrites the family's dynamic from the inside out. Creator Benjamin Gutschik calls the show a story about control, identity, and what happens when the perfect design starts to think for itself. And that's exactly what makes Cassandra hit hard. It's not about killer robots or apocalyptic stakes, it's about intimacy, about how technology gets close enough to understand you, then decides to improve you. The performances are restrained but powerful, a believable family unraveling in a space that feels both hyper-modern and haunted. Visually, it's sleek and unsettling, minimalist architecture, sterile lighting, reflections everywhere. The house looks like a dream on the surface, but the longer you're in it, the more it starts to feel like a trap. 6 episodes, each under an hour, and it builds tension so methodically that you don't realize you've been holding your breath until the credits roll. Watch Cassandra when you want something smart, eerie, and emotionally grounded. A techno thriller that doesn't shout about the dangers of AI, it quietly proves them. Next on the list is a show for people who love a domestic thriller with real teeth. The Better Sister takes that old saying, blood is thicker than water, and asks what happens when blood is also evidence. It's a tightly wound, character-driven mystery adapted from Alafair Burke's best-selling novel, and it delivers all the things you want from a binge-worthy psychological drama. Layered performances, messy morality, and twists that actually feel earned. The series follows two estranged sisters, Chloe and Nikki, who couldn't be more different. Chloe, played by Jessica Biel, has it all: the career, the family, the carefully curated life. Nikki, played by Elizabeth Banks, has the opposite: a rough history, an unpredictable temper, and a habit of showing up when she's least wanted. But when Chloe's husband is murdered, their worlds collide again, and long-buried secrets start crawling back to the surface. What begins as a whodunit slowly becomes a who are you really story about resentment, survival, and the stories siblings tell to make peace with who they became. Showrunners Olivia Milch and Regina Corrado frame the story less like a murder mystery and more like an autopsy of identity, of how two women can share DNA and still be total strangers. Each episode reveals a new version of their shared history, told from alternating perspectives that twists your sympathies until you're not sure who you're rooting for anymore. And the performances are phenomenal. Bill gives Chloe a veneer of control that keeps cracking, while Banks plays Nikki with just enough warmth to make you believe her, right until you shouldn't. Visually, the show lives in a world of glass houses and perfect lighting, luxury apartments, Hamptons beach homes, high-end everything, but the cracks are everywhere. It's sleek on the surface, suffocating underneath. The pacing is deliberate, the tension slow cooked. You start thinking it's about the crime, then realize it's about the damage that started decades before it. It's 8 episodes, just under 7 hours total, and it's the kind of show that hooks you early but lingers for days. Watch The Better Sister when you want a thriller that feels intimate, intelligent, and just self-aware enough to sting, because the only thing more dangerous than the truth is the version of it you tell yourself. In a city where ambition never sleeps, two brothers try to build something that might finally set them free or destroy them completely. Black Rabbit is an 8-episode drama about family, control, and the dangers of mistaking power for stability. Jude Law plays Jake Friedkin, a sharp and disciplined New Yorker who's built his reputation on precision, the kind of man who thinks he can outrun his past by working harder than it. But when his older brother Vince, played by Jason Bateman, suddenly reappears after years away, Jake's carefully balanced life starts to unravel. Vince is charming, impulsive, and uncontainable, the kind of energy Jake's world can't absorb without breaking. When the two reunite to run a high-end Manhattan lounge called Black Rabbit, the line between opportunity and disaster disappears. What begins as a story about rebuilding turns into a slow-burn pressure cooker. Every night at the club feels like a test. Investors circling, debts calling, tempers rising. The brothers' partnership becomes a mirror for everything they've spent years denying. Loyalty, resentment, love, guilt. You can feel the tension building in every glance, every pause. Two men locked in orbit, each trying to save the other without losing themselves. Bateman and Law are magnetic together. They make Black Rabbit feel less like a crime story and more like a family tragedy playing out under low light and loud music. The atmosphere is elegant, moody, and suffocating in the best way. Every frame hums with tension, and every conversation feels like it might be the one that tips the whole thing over. 8 episodes, just under 7 hours total, and it's built to binge. Slow enough to savor, tense enough that you won't stop. Watch Black Rabbit when you want something slick, smart, and quietly devastating. A series about ambition, forgiveness, and the danger of reopening old doors just to see if the lock still works. If you're ready for a binge that hits like a punch and then refuses to leave your chest, this is it. The Narrow Road to Deep North adapts the Booker Prize-winning novel into a 5-episode miniseries directed by Justin Kurzel. It spans 3 timelines: a medical student's affair in Adelaide, a POW's hell on the Burma-Thailand railway, and a war hero turned surgeon haunted by everything he thought he left behind. At the center is Dorigo Evans, charming, flawed, and irrevocably changed by his choices. He falls for his uncle's wife, is thrust into absolute terror as a Japanese prisoner, and then decades later watches the quiet collapse of the self-image he built. Alongside him is Amy Mulvaney, whose unexpected bond with Dorigo becomes the emotional compass of the series. Their love isn't romantic fantasy, it's a long shadow. What makes this show extraordinary is that it treats war not as spectacle but as impact, memory, and legacy. The creators say the story is about survival, guilt, and the fragments of identity the war leaves behind. The visual style is raw and unflinching. Jungle mud, cracked teeth, sweat and regret, and it matches the weight of what's being shown. This isn't just a war story, it's a portrait of the cost of being alive when you're supposed to be dead. 5 episodes, clocking in just under 5 hours, and it doesn't spare you. You'll feel tired by the finale, but somehow alive. Watch The Narrow Road to the Deep North when you want something powerful, beautifully grim, and unforgettable, because some stories don't end when the gunfire stops. If The Narrow Road to the Deep North is about the scars of survival, American Primeval is about the price of creation, the messy, brutal birth of a country that still can't shake its ghosts. This 6-part limited series from Peter Burke and Mark Smith takes the myth of the American frontier and burns it down to the bone. Set in 1857, it follows several lives colliding on the edge of civilization. A Shoshone-raised wanderer named Isaac, played by Taylor Kitsch, a frontier widow, Sarah Rowell, played by Betty Gilpin, trying to keep her son alive, and Jacob and Amish Pratt, played by Dane DeHaan and Sarah Lightfoot Leon, devout newlyweds making the Mormon trek west. Their paths cross in a landscape ruled by fate, violence, and desperation as the story builds toward the real-life Mountain Meadows Massacre, one of the darkest chapters in American history. Burke doesn't romanticize anything here. This is an America in its most primal state, unforgiving land, fragile belief, and the illusion that righteousness will protect you. It's shot with staggering realism, firelight, sweat and blood against skies that look painted by apocalypse. You can almost feel the dirt in your teeth. The performances are stellar across the board. Kitsch gives Isaac the quiet weight of a man caught between worlds, Gilpin brings grounded strength and vulnerability to a mother clawing for hope, and DeHaan channels the mix of zeal and doubt that makes fate feel dangerous. Together they build a world where every moral line is written in mud. 6 episodes, roughly 6 hours total, and it's as intense as television gets, sprawling, violent, and surprisingly spiritual. Watch American Primeval when you want something epic, visceral, and deeply human, a reminder that every civilization begins with chaos and some stories were never meant to be clean. Let's shift gears into something gritty, tight, and emotionally sharp. Task is a 7-episode crime drama from creator Brad Inglesby, the creator of Mayor of Easttown, that drops you into the working-class suburbs of Philadelphia where nothing is simple and every quiet house hides its own storm. Mark Ruffalo plays Tom Brandis, an FBI agent and former priest who's been pulled back into the field after a personal tragedy. He becomes the head of a task force created to investigate a string of violent trap house robberies tied to a biker gang led by Robbie Prendergast, played by Tom Pelphrey, a garbage collector whose life of quiet desperation has pushed him into dangerous territory. Inglesby has described Task as a story about how the people who know you best are often the ones you don't see, and that runs through every scene. The show isn't just about heists or crime, it's about trauma, loyalty, and how survival often means losing something you thought was fixed. The performances are raw, grounded, and unflashy in the best way. Ruffalo's wariness, Pelphrey's desperate charm, and a supporting cast that keeps reminding you the world outside the case is just as broken. Visually and tonally, Task doesn't sugarcoat. Concrete suburbs, low-lit rooms, gearheads getting sticky with cash and regret, and a vibe that feels like you're inside the bad part of your hometown you were always told to stay away from. 6 hours, maybe a little more, they're tight, immersive, and won't let you just switch off. Watch Task when you want a thriller that's as much about the cost of fighting as the crime being fought. One where justice doesn't come wrapped in neat bows, and the biggest battle might be the one inside you. Brace yourself for something raw, urgent, and uncomfortably real. Adolescence uses a simple yet devastating setup, a 13-year-old accused of killing a schoolmate, and turns it into one of the smartest, most unsettling binge experiences of the year. The series begins when Jamie Miller is arrested for the murder of a classmate, and immediately the series becomes less about did he and more about what happens next. His father Eddie, played by Stephen Graham, is pulled put into disbelief, shame, rage, and denial. The detectives, the psychologist, the school, all the adults around Jamie are scrambling to answer the question everyone's whispering: what the hell went wrong? The show isn't just focused on Jamie, it's the entire system, the community, the invisible forces that form a boy before he even realizes it. What makes Adolescence exceptional is that it's told in real time. Each episode shot in one continuous take, pushing you into the moment and not letting you escape. Co-creators Graham and Jack Thorne say they wanted to explore what's happening to our young men these days, to examine masculinity, isolation, and the quiet rage that catches up. The aesthetic is tense and unyielding, camera tracking tight, dialogue sharp, pauses loaded with fear. 4 episodes, each about an hour long, and by the end you'll feel like you spent more than 4 hours in someone's nightmare. Watch Adolescence when you want a show that doesn't just entertain, it unsettles, provokes, and lingers, because sometimes the question isn't who committed the crime, it's what built him. Forget cozy small town TV. Wayward is a sinister invitation to one of those places that looks idyllic but keeps secrets in its foundations. Created, co-show-run and starring Mae Martin, the 8-episode limited series introduces Tall Pines, a picture-perfect Vermont town and home to the elite Tall Pines Academy, a school for troubled teens that may be the most dangerous thing in the county. Martin plays Alex Dempsey, a recently transferred local cop who moves to town with his pregnant wife Laura, played by Sarah Gadon. At the same time, 2 teenage best friends, Layla and Abby, are sent to the academy and begin unraveling its unsettling rituals. Then there's Evelyn Wade, played by Toni Collette, the charismatic, coldly soothing head of the academy, whose friendly smile hides a pattern of power and control as old as the woods around Tall Pines. Martin says the show is about the eternal struggle between one generation and the next, and how buried truths always find their way to the surface. The troubled teen industry is the framework, but the heart of the story is belonging, identity, and rebellion, the kind that hums beneath every late-night whisper and locker room dare. Visually, Wayward is both beautiful and eerie. Pristine forests, mirror-like lakes, students that skip classes and disappear, and a town whose emptiness screams louder than its silence. It's 8 episodes long, each around 50 minutes, and you'll likely finish it in a single long night or 2 shorter ones, but you won't sleep through the credits. Watch Wayward when you're ready for a thriller that looks like simplicity and stings like complexity, because sometimes the place you come to escape is the place you can't leave. Next on the list is Untamed, which starts when a woman's body is found at the base of a cliff in Yosemite National Park, and veteran investigator Kyle Turner, played by Eric Bana, is called in to find out what happened. But the deeper he goes, the less sense any of it makes. Untamed begins like a wilderness procedural and unfolds into something far more human. A story about guilt, obsession, and the impossibility of staying neutral in a place that strips you bare. Turner is a specialist for the National Park Service, meticulous, methodical, and quietly fraying around the edges. What should be a clear-cut case of accidental death turns slippery when evidence vanishes, locals grow hostile, and a new lead points towards something the park's leadership would rather keep buried. As the investigation stretches on, Turner's pursuit of truth starts to feel less like duty and more like penance. Sam Neill plays Paul Souther, the park's longtime chief ranger and Turner's reluctant ally, a man who knows the land, its politics, and just enough of its secrets to recognize when someone's digging too deep. Created by Mark Smith from The Revenant and L. Smith, Untamed takes the structure of a mystery and stretches it into a meditation on isolation and instinct. The wilderness isn't just a backdrop, it's a mirror reflecting every crack in Turner's resolve. Director John Lee Hancock films it like a living thing. Cold air, brittle light, sound that vanishes into silence. Bana carries the show with the kind of grounded intensity he does best. Quiet, wounded, unrelenting. unrelenting. You can see the exhaustion in every choice he makes, the conflict between the law he serves and the peace he can't find. 6 episodes, each under an hour, and every one leaves you a little more unsettled. Watch Untamed when you want a thriller that feels primal and deliberate, a story about a man chasing truth through wilderness so vast he might never find his way back. Set in the early 1800s, Chief of War tells the sweeping, violent and deeply human story of how the islands of Hawaii were unified under one rule, and the cost of that unity. This 9-episode Apple TV Plus epic follows Kayana, a native warrior and chief, as he navigates loyalty, colonization and a brutal collision between tradition and power. Jason Momoa, who also co-created the series, stars as Kayana, a leader caught between two worlds, the warrior code that shaped him and the encroaching Western influence that threatens to erase everything he knows. When foreign ships arrive and old alliances fracture, Kayana must choose between peace and survival, and every choice comes with blood. Momoa has said he wanted to tell a story about his ancestors told from their perspective, and that sincerity burns through every frame. This isn't a romanticized version of Hawaiian history, it's raw, grounded and written from within the culture it depicts. Chief of War explores identity and empire, but at its core it's about a man trying to protect his people in a world that keeps shifting under his feet. Visually, the show is stunning. Director Justin Chon captures the islands not as paradise but as living battlegrounds, volcanic landscapes, ocean storms and lush jungles filled with tension and prophecy. The action is visceral but never gratuitous. Every strike feels like history echoing through muscle and memory. At 9 episodes, Chief of War is the definition of an immersive binge, cinematic, emotional and culturally rich. Watch it when you want something epic but intimate, a show that tells a nation's origin story with both fire and soul. Because this isn't just a historical drama, it's the reclamation of a narrative that was never meant to be forgotten. Set in the early 1800s, Chief of War tells the sweeping, violent and deeply human story of how the islands of Hawaii were unified under one rule, and the cost of that unity. This 9-episode Apple TV Plus epic follows Kayana, a native warrior and chief, as he navigates loyalty, colonization and a brutal collision between tradition and power. Jason Momoa, who also co-created the series, stars as Kayana, a leader caught between two worlds, the warrior code that shaped him and the encroaching Western influence that threatens to erase everything he knows. When foreign ships arrive and old alliances fracture, Kayana must choose between peace and survival, and every choice comes with blood. Momoa has said he wanted to tell a story about his ancestors told from their perspective, and that sincerity burns through every frame. This isn't a romanticized version of Hawaiian history, it's raw, grounded and written from within the culture it depicts. Chief of War explores identity and empire, but at its core it's about a man trying to protect his people in a world that keeps shifting under his feet. Visually, the show is stunning. Director Justin Chon captures the islands not as paradise but as living battlegrounds, volcanic landscapes, ocean storms and lush jungles filled with tension and prophecy. The action is visceral but never gratuitous. Every strike feels like history echoing through muscle and memory. At 9 episodes, Chief of War is the definition of an immersive binge, cinematic, emotional and culturally rich. Watch it when you want something epic but intimate, a show that tells a nation's origin story with both fire and soul. Because this isn't just a historical drama, it's the reclamation of a narrative that was never meant to be forgotten. If the last few years have taught us anything, it's that power and paranoia are never far apart, and Zero Day takes that idea and turns it into a full-blown political thriller that feels terrifyingly real. This 6-episode limited series is a nerve-tightening look at how truth, leadership and information all crumble when fear takes over. Robert De Niro leads the cast in his first ever television role, playing George Mullen, a former US president pulled out of retirement after a devastating cyber attack brings the country to its knees. The attack isn't just technological, it's psychological. Infrastructure collapses, media implodes, and no one knows who to trust. As Mullen races to uncover who's really behind it, he's forced to confront his own legacy and the possibility that the enemy might not be foreign at all. De Niro is predictably magnetic, measured, tired, and quietly dangerous, while Lizzie Kaplan, Angela Bassett, and Jesse Plemons round out the cast that feels like a powder keg of conflicting motives. Every scene hums with unease, every handshake could be betrayal. The showrunner describes Zero Day as a paranoid thriller for the age of misinformation, and that's exactly what it feels like. Less 24, more the parallax view for a digital century. There are no clean heroes, no stable ground, and no guarantees that the truth even exists anymore. It stands without being loud, intelligent without ever pausing to explain itself, and grounded enough to make you double check your Wi-Fi after every episode. Visually, it's all cool glass and gray suits, the kind of sleek DC by way of Hollywood aesthetic that hides rot under polish. Every episode ends with just enough revelation to make you think you're getting closer until you realize the story's been playing you all along. 6 episodes, around 6 hours total, and it's a perfect binge for anyone who loves smart, cynical political drama that actually respects the audience. Watch Zero Day when you want something sharp, sophisticated, and just close enough to reality to make you sweat. A terminal diagnosis, a marriage left behind, and a decision to live loudly while there's still time. That's the spark for Dying for Sex, an 8-episode limited series that turns a sensational logline into something tender and disarmingly honest. Michelle Williams stars as Molly, a 40-something woman who, after learning her breast cancer is terminal, chooses to reclaim her life through a string of sexual adventures that are less about shock and more about agency, control, curiosity, and connection on her own terms. Jenny Slate plays Nikki, Molly's best friend and witness, the person who listens, worries, cheers, and narrates as their friendship becomes the show's beating heart. Created by Kim Rosenstock and Elizabeth Merriweather, the series reframes a headline-y idea into a character study about desire, mortality, and how humor can make even the heaviest days survivable. Each episode pairs a new chapter of Molly's experiment with the everyday realities of scans, side effects, and family, not to dampen the audacity but to ground it. The writing never begs for sympathy or cheap provocation, it lets two women be complicated, contradictory, and gloriously human. Williams gives a daring and guarded performance, playful one minute, scraped raw the next, while Slade brings warmth and bite, turning Nikki into the friend everyone hopes they have when life tilts. Together, they make the show feel intimate rather than salacious, confessional rather than confected. Tonally, it's intimate and sunlit, apartments that look lived in, cafe corners, quad hospital rooms, a score that knows when to step back and let a breath become a scene. Episodes run around half hour, which makes the full season a single day binge, and somehow the shorter runtime hits harder. 8 episodes, less than 4 hours in total, small in scale but huge in feeling. Watch Dying for Sex when you want something bold and compassionate, a series that isn't about dying so much as the stubborn, beautiful work of staying alive while you still can. Next on the list is Apple Cider Vinegar, a 6-episode limited series about the rise of a social media health guru whose miracle story starts to unravel, alongside the lives she influences. It's equal parts dark comedy and cautionary tale, charting how a viral lie can feel more comforting than an uncomfortable truth. Caitlin Dever plays the influencer at the center with sharp, unnerving charm, while Alicia Debnam Carey and Aisha D orbit as women pulled into the wellness machine for very different reasons, one seeking hope, the other chasing meaning. Creator Samantha Strauss steers the story away from pure scandal towards something stickier, the seduction of certainty and the collateral damage when belief gets monetized. Stylistically, the show is glossy on the surface, bright kitchens, beautiful plates, pastel branding, then quietly merciless in how it peels the facade. It's not a gotcha expose, it's an intimate look at parasocial trust, performative empathy, and the algorithms that reward both. By the time the receipts show up, you're not just angry at the liar, you're asking why we wanted to believe. 6 episodes about an hour each, built for a one-day binge that will have you texting your group chat halfway through. Watch Apple Cider Vinegar when you want something sharp, timely, and a little bit wicked. A series that turns the wellness boom into a mirror and asks what we're really trying to heal. A perfect family, a quiet suburb, a story that gets darker the closer you look. Good American Family takes one of the most bewildering real-life cases of the last decade and turns it into a gripping psychological true crime drama that's as much about truth as it is about the stories we tell to survive it. It follows Christine and Michael Barnett, a middle-class Indiana couple who adopt a young girl named Natalia, only to find themselves trapped into a spiral of suspicion, media frenzy, and emotional collapse when they begin to believe she may not be who she claims to be. What starts as a story of generosity and love becomes a nightmare of mistrust, blurred timelines, and impossible questions. Who is this child? What really happened in that house? And how much of the story are we shaping just to make sense of it? Ellen Pompeo and Mark Duplass lead the series with incredible restraint, playing parents torn between fear, guilt, and a desperate need to believe their own version of events. Their performances are perfectly balanced by Imogen Faith Reed, whose portrayal of Natalia keeps you constantly uncertain. A child, a victim, a manipulator, or something more complicated entirely. Showrunner Katie Robbins keeps the tension surgical. This isn't a lurid rehash of a tabloid headline. It's a slow, unnerving look at how ordinary people implode under the weight of public scrutiny and private delusion. Each episode shifts perspective, letting the truth flicker in and out like bad light, and by the finale, you realize the series isn't about one family. It's about all of us trying to make monsters or martyrs out of people we'll never understand. 8 episodes, just under 7 hours total, and it's the kind of show you'll finish in one day and keep debating for a week. Watch Good American Family when you want something tense, intelligent, and deeply human, a story that proves sometimes the scariest thing isn't what happened, but how badly we need to decide what did. In an affluent suburb north of Copenhagen, a young Filipino au pair vanishes. The police call it a tragedy, the neighbors call it unfortunate, and one woman refuses to let it go. Secrets We Keep is a 6-episode Danish limited series that starts as a missing person case and turns into a scalpel-sharp portrait of privilege, denial, and the quiet ways a community protects itself. At the center is Cecily, a mother who becomes obsessed with finding out what happened next door. Not just for the missing girl, but for Angel, the au pair living in her own home who suddenly seems very unsafe. Her husband Mike wants the family out of the headlines. Their glamorous friends Katarina and Rasmus insist everything is under control. Then facts stop lining up. Texts, videos, timelines, and Cecily realizes the danger isn't somewhere out there. It's across the hedge, smiling at her in the school car park. Secrets We Keep isn't interested in sensational twists so much as the mechanics of complicity. It's about the au pair system, how money softens consequences, and the way well-meaning people become part of the cover-up by choosing comfort over truth. The performances are precise and lived in. Cecily's determination curdles into obsession, Mike's reasonableness starts sounding like cowardice, Katarina's poise feels more like armor with every scene, and the newly appointed investigator becomes the show's quiet conscience, under-resourced, overruled, and still pushing forward. Visually, it's all clean lines and cold light, classic kitchens, waterfront decks, private schools with perfect lawns. The perfection is deliberate, a veneer that makes every crack feel louder. The pacing is measured, not slow. It builds pressure the way a storm builds over still water. 6 episodes, about 3.5 hours long, and it lands like a bruise you notice only later. Watch Secrets We Keep when you want a mystery that cuts deeper than whodunit. A story about power, complicity, and the cost of looking away. And that's it. 17 of the best new miniseries 2025 has thrown our way. Some brutal, some haunting, all prove that the most powerful stories don't need 10 seasons to leave a mark. If you've already binged a few of these, let me know your favorite in the comments or tell me which one I missed. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, share it with a fellow TV addict, and subscribe for smart weekly recommendations, or if you just want someone to help you decide what to watch next when your queue feels endless. Thanks for hanging out, happy binging, see you in the next one, and remember, sleep is optional when there's one more episode.